This is a meeting of the Richland County Board of Supervisors. And it will be broadcast via WebEx, as many of our meetings are now. So when you speak, kindly use your microphone because you will be broadcasting. And I will ask Clerk Kalish to call the roll.
Carroll,
Here.
Murphy Lopez,
Here.
Van Landuit, Seat, McKee, Brewer,
Here.
Luck, Manning, Gotchel, Glassburner, Cooper, Gentis, Turk,
Here.
Cosgrove, Frank,
Here via WebEx.
Severson, Williamson, Cooey, Nelson, Paul, and McGuire.
Here.
You have a total of 20 out of 21.
Thank you. We'll begin this evening with our invocation.
So I'm Pastor Wayne Fife, and again, it is an honor to be with you. Before I pray, I want to express to you on behalf of my family, and I'm sure the whole community, our appreciation, my appreciation for your service, for the time that you spend. And from what I understand, there are a lot of extra hours that the public is not aware of, besides your meetings here once a month. And so we are very thankful for your service to our community and your hearts for increasing good and the progress of our community. Thank you very much. Father in heaven, I come to you in the name of Jesus Christ. And I thank you for each board member, for our president, Marty, and others that play key roles along with these representatives of the community of Richland County. Lord, we are thankful for the privilege of serving our fellow citizens. And I join with them in humbling myself and with them before you, asking for your wisdom and your guidance. Lead us, O Father, we pray, in not only doing what is right, but doing what is righteous, in operating out of a heart of humility and clarity and devotion to this county, not out of pride, but out of purpose. Lord, I pray for vision and strategies to percolate in this body as they address key issues of our community, be they financial, economic, social, or educational in nature. Father, we partner together and ask for your grace, your wisdom, and your guidance. And finally, Lord, I pray for such a move of integrity in this body that they will engage with one another in celebration of freedom of speech and the freedom of thought and the freedom of conscience that we value so much. And out of that, enter into problem-solving dialogue and respect for the great things each of us bring to the table. Thank you for the unique giftings and the unique desires and dreams individuals have for this community here in this gathered body. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Clerk Kalish, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Now, Clerk Kalish, if I could call on you once again to please read tonight's agenda.
We have a 27-point agenda. roll call, invocation, pledge of allegiance, approve agenda, approve minutes of the June 15th meeting, an ordinance relating to a parcel belonging to Jared and Rachel Wilson in the town of Marshall, a report on petitions for zoning amendments received since the last county board session, a report on rezoning petitions recommended for denial by the Zoning and Land Information Committee, resolution amending resolution number 15-99, approving a sign-on bonus to newly hired certified nursing assistants and nurses at Pine Valley Healthcare and Rehabilitation Center, resolution amending the county ambulance services addendum to the handbook of personnel policies and work rules, a resolution authorizing the purchase of the Richland Electric Cooperative Building, resolution proclaiming July 2021 as Fair Housing Month, a resolution celebrating Independent Retailer Month, resolution approving a contract with an engineering firm relating to improving the county's emergency radio and tower infrastructure, a resolution making a funds transfer to the Richland County Fair Revolving Loan Fund, resolution adopting a county classification, compensation, and staff authorization policy, resolution amending rules number 14 and 16 of the rules of the board, a resolution amending the Richland County Employee Handbook meal reimbursements, a resolution creating a committee to develop a strategic plan and monitor progress once developed, a resolution approving a contract with App Swain Law Firm for Corporation Counsel Services, resolution amending resolution number 19-36 regarding a discrepancy in vacation accrual, resolution creating an assistant to the county administrator position, a resolution allocating American Rescue Plan Act funds towards local expansion of broadband, appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees, reports from the administrator and Southwest Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, correspondence, and adjourn.
Thank you. You've heard the agenda. What are your wishes? Motion by Mr. Williamson, second by Mr. McKee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We have an agenda. Next order of business is approving the minutes of the June 15th meeting. Have you had a chance to review those? If so, I'd entertain a motion. A motion by Gary Manning, second by Ingrid Glassrunner. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. First order of business, I'll call on Mr. Bindle. Where is he? He's here somewhere. An ordinance relating to a parcel belonging to Jared and Rachel Wilson in the town of Marshall. Mr. Kalish.
This will be ordinance number 21-18, amendment number 528 to the Richland County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance number 5 relating to a parcel belonging to Jared and Rachel Wilson in the town of Marshall. That the 21.96 acre parcel belonging to Jared and Rachel Wilson and in the town of Marshall is hereby rezoned from general agricultural and forestry district to the agricultural residential district. This ordinance is being offered to you by the Zoning and Land Information Committee.
You've heard the ordinance. What's your pleasure? Mr. Cooey makes the motion, seconded by Ms. Gentis. Discussion. Mr. Bindle.
For the background on this is, back in 1997, this used to be 210 acres, got split off from the rest of the land. Needs to be brought into conformity for mortgage reasons.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Bindle? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ordinance is passed. Number 7, report on petitions for zoning amendments received since the last county board session. I'll call on Mr. Bindle once more.
There's a petition by Matthew Merez and Amanda Warman for conditional use for a temporary placement mobile home while the new home is being built. There's a petition by Troy and Lisa Clary to rezone 0.68 acres from ag forestry to residential 2, section 13, town of Orion. There's a petition by Matthew and Christine Thompson to rezone 11.15 acres from agricultural to agricultural residential in section 26, town of Richwood. There's a petition by Alliant Energy to rezone 2.32 acres from ag forestry to commercial, section 30, town of Dayton. There's a petition by Donald and Suzanne Anderson to rezone 9.35 acres from ag forestry to ag residential, section 6, town of Buena Vista.
Sounds like we'll be busy next month. Are there any rezoning petitions recommended for denial?
None.
Thank you. Number 9, a resolution amending resolutions 15-99, approving a sign-on bonus to newly hired certified nursing assistants and nurses at Pine Valley Healthcare and Rehabilitation Center. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-91. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the following sign-on bonus relating to hiring new certified nursing assistants and nurses and activity aides, housekeepers, laundry workers, personal care workers, food service 2 staff, lead cook, and maintenance workers at Pine Valley. Item number 4, after the newly employed certified nursing assistant or nurse or activity aide, housekeeper, laundry worker, personal care worker, food service 2 staff person, lead cook, or maintenance worker has worked for 90 days, a referring employee, if still employed at Pine Valley, would receive a $250 bonus, and the new employee would receive a bonus of $500. A second payment of $500 would be paid to the new employee after completion of 1 year of employment at Pine Valley, except that an on-call employee must work at least 24-hour shifts after completing orientation, and be it further resolved that the administrator of Pine Valley is authorized to temporarily suspend this program or permanently terminate it at the administrator's discretion, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Kalish. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Van Landijk. I got it perfect, didn't I? Makes the motion. Do I have a second? Mrs. Call. Discussion.
This is Bob on the WebEx, Chair.
Thank you, Bob. Go ahead.
I'm curious how this program has been working. Do we have any data to say this has been successful, not successful, helpful, not helpful?
I'm looking in the audience to see anyone from Pine Valley, and there's Tom back there. Okay, here comes Tom.
We've been getting about 6 to 8 people a year that have qualified under the old resolution. But the general lack of applicants for all departments within our facility and the competition and the wages and sign-on bonuses in the community has brought this resolution forward.
How does this compare to other other companies and their incentives for this? Is this similar to them, higher or lower?
I told another county supervisor when I arrived tonight that just looking in the paper, I noticed a $5,000 bonus. I saw a $2,000, a $1,500. This would probably be one of the minimum ones out there, but at least it'd be twice as high as what we have been having, which is only 500.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to call the question then. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution carries. Number 10, resolution amending the county ambulance services addendum to the handbook of personnel policies and work rules. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-92. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the amended Richland County Ambulance Service Handbook, a copy of which is on file in the county clerk's office, is hereby approved. And be it further resolved that the major aspects of the amendments to the handbook are as follows. Number 1, licensure language made consistent with the state administrative code. Number 2, chain of command updated to reflect a county administrator. Number 3, probation period now consistent with county handbook. Number 4, outline of how paid on-call staff are paid. Number 5, changes to the scheduling process and policy on minimum hours on call each month. Number 6, changes to discipline process added in the county's formal complaint and mismanagement policy. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage. This resolution is being offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. McKee? Seconded by that guy in the back. Mr. Cooey. Discussion? It's pretty cut and dried, I think. All those in favor of the resolution amending the county ambulance services addendum to the handbook of personnel policies and work rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, the resolution carries. Number 11, a resolution authorizing the purchase of the Richland Electric Cooperative Building. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-93. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the expenditure of up to $600,000 less any funds from this borrowing here to expand it on this project for the acquisition of the Richland Electric Cooperative Building and any improvements needed to remodel the building for the intended use. Be it further resolved that this authorization is contingent upon the receipt of a $200,000 donation from Robert Simpson for the specific purpose of purchasing the Richland Electric Cooperative Building with the total purchase price not to exceed $350,000. Be it further resolved that invoices for the purchase and remodeling expenses up to $576,238.62, which is the remaining balance and shall be paid from Fund 75. And be it further resolved that any invoices for the acquisition and or remodeling costs in excess of the remaining amount of the $600,000 borrowing shall be paid out of the Joint Ambulance Committee Fund 51 or other funding sources. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and this resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure, Mr. Manning? Seconded by Mr. Severson. Let's have a discussion. This has been a long and arduous process.
Chair, this is Frank on the
Yes, Mr.
WebEx.
Frank, go ahead.
Thank you. So a couple of questions I have is we're allocating $600,000. The building's 350, donation of 200,000 brings that understanding cost down to 150,000 with yet 600,000 to go into what? Do we have a plan? Is there a budget to know what kind of work needs to be done there? It's kind of, it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea, but it seems like there's, where is this other money actually going to be spent?
Yes,
What's going to
we
be
have the
happening? This isn't
Director of
specified.
Emergency Management Government here. Go ahead.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So to answer Bob's question, yes, there has been an outline of a budget on this project. We worked with Jules and Associates to identify all the costs associated, not just for the acquisition, but to put a sprinkler system in, to redo the garage bays so that the ambulance will be able to back into those bays, addition of bedrooms, and storage. We're trying to keep the remodeling of the facility to a minimum as we're trying to be good stewards of the money that you've granted us for this project.
I have a comment question, maybe hidden in the comment. Then this building is more than just an ambulance garage.
Correct. As many of you in the room might know, my office consists of both the ambulance service and emergency management and hazardous materials response. So this facility will serve not only as a new facility to run the ambulances out of, but emergency management and the hazmat, hazardous materials operations will also move to this building along with our emergency operations center. So it's more geared to our overall emergency services for the county.
And the benefactor donation is pretty much tied to this building at this time, is it not?
Correct. Going back to what you had said earlier, Chairman Brewer, this journey started in 2018 when we started to look for facilities to not just house the ambulance staff, the equipment, but to provide an opportunity for growth for the ambulance service for the county and expand our operations. And so we started in 2018 and we looked at several facilities. We looked at some vacant land out on Highway 14, but we felt that that was just not a good location for the service. We looked at the building owned by the Vitesnik family that had the fire in it. And we looked at the REC building. We looked at the building on South Orange Street, which has some small businesses in it. And then we also looked at a lot out in the North Industrial Park. And that was the location that had been chosen, and we started putting work towards moving out there. But we come into kind of a twofold problem. One, when we discovered that it was going to cost about $380,000 just for Mr. Simpson to put the shell up, that didn't include concrete, then we knew that that was going to exceed what we have for a budget, which was initially $600,000 plus our own money. And so from there, Mr. Simpson had conversations with members of the community, with Shannon Clark, the CEO of Richland Electric Cooperative. And through those conversations, the REC building became more fiscally the best choice for us in regards to being able to maintain or stay within the budget that we've been given. So that building was appraised at $550,000, and Shannon Clark, through communications with his board, has offered it to us for $350,000, as that's what they have listed as a liability on their books. They're hoping to move their services out to the North Industrial Park, where they have their trucks and their electrical equipment, poles and transformers. So along with the generous donation of Mr. Simpson, bringing that down to $150,000, we now feel that this is a project that we can complete and stay within the dollar amount that's been granted to us.
Thank you. Anyone else care to comment?
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
You may, Mr. Murphy Lopez.
Okay, so it's noted on the resolution that I voted against this at Finance and Personnel, and I did just send an email to everybody with an amendment and 2 attachments. I would say, first of all, we have debated this a couple times in Finance and Personnel, and I think a lot of those committee members already understand some of my concerns. But, in general, I recognize the need for an improved ambulance facility. So that's not my issue as much. More of my issue is that I don't think it makes sense that all Richland County taxpayers would pay for the Richland Ambulance Department for this improved facility. So our county has 7 EMS districts, and the email I sent everybody is a map. I'm sorry, the first attachment is a map that shows all those districts. So there's Cazenovia, Viola, Lafarge, Lone Rock, Muscadet, and Blue River. Those are the other EMS districts. Then there's also the first responder districts in Ithaca, Boaz, and Yuba. So when we borrowed this, well, I should step back and say that each district, they impose their own taxes and fees on their residents and their users. So when we borrowed $3 million in January of 2020, a year and a half ago, and that hit the tax bills in January of this year, we taxed all property owners in Richland County, not just those who live in the Richland Ambulance District, which is that big orange area in the middle of the map. People in those other 6 districts paid for this as well. And so essentially they're now being double taxed. So the amendment I'm offering, and I'll just go ahead and read it, but again, it's in your emails. So right now there are 3 whereases in the resolution, and between the second and the third whereases, I've drafted 3 additional whereases, and those read, whereas the $600,000 plus $62,367 in interest is levied across the county as a whole over a 5-year period. And whereas the service area for the proposed facility comprises a geographical area consisting of 60% of the tax base, and whereas the remaining 40% of the tax base already pays for ambulance districts operating from the villages of Blue River, Boaz, Cazenovia, Ithaca, Lafarge, Lone Rock, Muscadet, Viola, and Yuba. And then that's the first change in the amendment that I sent. The second one is a be it further resolved. And there are 5 be it further resolved. And between the second, there are 4 of them. And between the second and the third ones, I've drafted one that says, be it further resolved, the EMS and first responder districts outside of Richland Ambulance shall receive payments over a 5 to 10 year period using Joint Ambulance Committee Fund 51 or other ambulance funding sources proportionate to their tax base's contribution paid toward the $600,000 borrowing plus interest. And then if you look at the spreadsheet that's attached, it's the second attachment in the email. This is a breakout of the tax base in each of the 7 ambulance districts. We have 24 million in tax base, and then the percent that the properties in each ambulance district make up of that big grand total of 24 million is in column C. So for example, Lone Rock makes up 14% of Richland County's tax base, not just the village of Lone Rock, but all the areas served by the Lone Rock Ambulance District. And so then if you take the 660 grand going toward the ambulance, toward this right here, the ambulance facility improvements, then, for example, Lone Rock property taxpayers are contributing $90,000 toward this project. And so what I'm suggesting is that 263,000 roughly be paid back to the EMS districts that are not included in Richland Ambulance District. I did think of a couple other ideas. This isn't really, I guess, an ideal solution in my mind. I'm trying to come up with something that I think I could live with personally, and that I think would be fair to taxpayers outside of the Richland district. But a couple other ideas I thought of is that we could propose
Mr.
that.
Murphy Lopez,
Yep. Go ahead.
you've offered an amendment,
Sure.
so I think we should handle that first. So you're offering the amendment.
Yes, I'll make a motion to amend. Thanks.
Do I have a second? Okay, Mr. McGuire seconds. Now the motion to amend is before us and belongs to the group. Let's discuss it.
Chair, this is
Sure.
Frank again.
Yes, Mr. Frank, I'll take you first.
All right, thank you. So my question on this is are these numbers on the amendment breaking down the difference between the emergency government side and the ambulance side, or is this taking the whole pot? Because this is really a dual office, which is emergency government and ambulance service. And if we're breaking this apart at 100%, like it's just ambulance, I don't think that's a fair representation, because the emergency government part handles everything in the county. So I'm curious how you broke that down.
Mr. Murphy Lopez.
So, Mr. Chair and Supervisor Frank, I did not break it. I did not break out any portion for emergency management versus ambulance. But I was thinking that probably if there wasn't a need for an improved ambulance facility, that the emergency management facility would stay in the courthouse. I know that some of the major reasons mentioned are due to the ambulance. It's due to the size of the garage door openings. It's due to the lack of the bedrooms. Those are most of the things are related to the ambulance. So for simplicity's sake, I did not break that out.
Thank you.
Mr. Severson, you had your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a clarification. Ambulance service areas are not districts, and districts have taxing authority. And those services defines the boundaries of where they provide EMS services. And so Lafarge Ambulance Service and Kickapoo Rescue Squad, which is Viola, they're their own entities and do not receive property tax for their services. And Kickapoo does receive donations from the town of Bloom, town of Sylvan, and the village of Viola, pays for the fuel and their building insurance. And then Lone Rock Rescue is owned by the village of Lone Rock and does not receive tax levy dollars outside of the village. And the town of Buena Vista does make a monetary donation of $5,000, and that gets put towards a new ambulance and equipment. Blue River EMS, Muscatine EMS, and Casanova EMS are part of a fire district and receive property tax money, same as their fire department.
So, given that information, what do you think? I'm asking you for your opinion.
1972 is when Richland County EMS was formed. And since that time, there has been money that has been given to the ambulance service that has been utilized for the residents of Richland County. Somebody who lives in Blue River, maybe in Richland Center, have a heart attack and use it. I know that's small, but here's another point. So from 1985 to 2020, the following, I'm going to list these following ambulance services that receive money from the Richland County Ambulance Service, and it's not tax levy money. So Blue River received $475 for 35 years. Casanova received $782. Lone Rock received $628. And that was every year for 35 years. And Viola received $782 for a total of $93,345.
Okay, thank you.
The
Miss-
money that Richland County has been giving those services that Supervisor Murphy Lopez was saying that they don't receive money, well, they have received some money.
Okay,
And some of them are able to tax their constituents.
thank you, Mr. Manning. You want a roll call on the amendment? Well, if we're done discussing it, we will. Okay, we're voting on the amendment. And it's very lengthy, and I'm not, yes, Mr. Cooey. Darren has another comment, okay, before we vote?
Right, and this is not to sound contrary, and I appreciate Supervisor Murphy Lopez actually came down and spent quite a bit of time with me, took the time to visit, kind of look at the operation, and so I certainly appreciate his due diligence. But with respect to the resolution, I just wanted to be noted that Yuba first responders, Ithaca first responders, and Dayton Western Richland County first responders are not ambulance services. They are emergency medical responders that show up in their personal vehicles, provide basic life support prior to an ambulance arriving. And they certainly do deserve any and all support that we can give them. And our ambulance service, the Richland County Ambulance Service, does budget $1,000 a year for them specifically. And then we also do equipment exchanges, and then they get up to $300 of disposable goods from us a year, gloves, masks, things like that. So I certainly appreciate his amendment. I just wanted to clarify that those three entities are not ambulance services.
Thank you. All right, are we ready to vote on the amendment? If so, I will ask Clerk Kalish to call the roll. And it'll be a yes or no.
Carroll. Murphy Lopez.
Yes.
Van Landuit. Seep.
Going to pass for the moment. You can come back to me.
McKee. Brewer.
No.
Luck.
Yes.
Manning.
No.
Glassbrenner. Cooper. Gentis.
No.
Turk.
No.
Cosgrove. Frank.
No.
Severson.
No.
Williamson. Cooey. Nelson.
Yes.
Call.
No.
McGuire.
Yes.
And Dot Seep.
Yes, I'm going to vote no, though I have to concede that there is some logic in, I believe.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
C.
Lopez's
We've had discussion.
statement.
Thank you. Mr. Kalish, what are the results?
5 yes, 15 no's.
Then the amendment is defeated. Now, Mr. Murphy Lopez, you had additional comments, maybe another amendment, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think I'm gonna propose an additional amendment. I just want to say that, that I do think one potential solution that isn't as favorable to me as the amendment I offered is for this to become an independent district maybe I'm not using the right words, and I appreciate some corrections on that. I've learned a lot about the ambulance over the past couple months and longer than that. But my understanding is that we've never had a district formed that's independent. And the only reason the county is involved is because the district has never been formed. So typically counties aren't involved in the ambulance business. It would be nice to see this district be independent in the long term. And the other idea I've had is just to have the ambulance pay the entire amount back to the county because of this conflict that I see. But I'm not willing to offer another amendment on it. I think the wishes of the county board are pretty clear based on the results of that vote.
Thank you. I think we'll call the roll then on the initial
Comments?
resolution. Mr. Van Landijk.
If I may make a comment, if this were to pass and this building is taken over for the use of the ambulance and the first responders and the hazardous objects project, what assurance do the neighbors have that they will not be imposed upon by sirens all hours of the day or night? And is there any way to protect the neighborhoods for what may or may not happen? It's in the middle of a neighborhood. It's also next to the swimming pool and a senior center. There's an awful lot of pedestrian traffic in that area. And
Especially in the summertime.
Yes. And so I just wanted to reassure the people that live there that their best interests would be taken care of if this were to pass.
Thank you. I'll call on Director Gudgeon to respond.
Chairman Brewer, if I may, Mr. Larson is here, and I know that he wants to make a comment regarding this. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to pass him the mic, and then he might have questions that I can answer along with the other supervisor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And you are?
My name is Brian Larson.
Right. And I think I received an email from you
Correct.
today or yesterday, and everyone did probably, so.
Correct.
Go
And
ahead.
a few Richland Center, city, the mayor and council people.
Okay,
And I'm a longtime resident of Richland County, 30 years or so, lived on Main Street by REC for the last 12 plus years. And I have nothing but admiration for the ambulance services of Richland County, and I'll make sure that that's well known. I'm a little bit concerned about the disruption that the ambulance service being placed in a neighborhood is going to cause, especially one like Lee mentioned about being so close to the pool, to the community center, the park system, so on and so forth. So, I don't think any neighborhood should have the ambulance in it. I understand what you've gone through so far, and any reassurance, at least, I'd be greatly appreciated.
thanks for your comments.
So in response to Mr. Larson's comment and Landijk's comment, when we first looked at the REC building, I had some of the same similar concerns, and I don't live in the city, I live outside the city. And being in public safety for 24 years as a licensed provider, as a service director, working in law enforcement in the coroner's office, you see tragedy all the time. And the last thing that any ambulance service or any public safety entity wants to do is create a hazard. And we identified that there is some potential hazards in that area, swimming pool being one of them. There's a lot of foot traffic. And so one of the things that we came up with, and we'll put it in as an operational plan, is for responders to come in on Main Street, turn onto 7th, come to the station, and then when we exit the station, we will only exit on 7th Street onto Main. From Main, we'll go to 6th Street and go to, if we're traveling to the west or to the east, and we're going to avoid the pool at all costs, that entire area at all costs. That's responders coming to the station, and that's the ambulance going out. It doesn't cost us much time, but if we create a tragedy in that area, that will cost this community dearly and our ambulance service. So we want to avoid that at all costs. The other thing is we know that we're going to have to be good neighbors, and we can't guarantee that you won't hear the siren. But what we can do is change some of our operational policies, such as we don't have to light up the siren, the 100-watt siren, right in the middle of the neighborhood, at certain hours of the day and night until we get out of that area. So if there's a car accident to the north or to the west or to the east, whichever direction we're going, we can get on the main highway, we can activate our emergency lights and sirens there and then travel to the scene. The lights and sirens don't really gain us a whole lot of time when it comes right down to it. It gives us a couple of minutes, and yes, a couple of minutes can mean life or death. But at the same time, operationally, it's not going to cost us that much to get out on our path of where we're going and then activate those emergency lights and sirens. So we'll have to train our staff. We'll have to put that policy in place. That is our goal. And we'll have to do our best to be good neighbors in the case of those two things. It is a concern right from the beginning, but I think we can mitigate it with those two items. So I hope that answers your question. It doesn't take away the fact that if the county board tonight votes yes, that we wouldn't become neighbors, but I will do all I can to try to be a good neighbor.
Mr. Severson?
Can't remember who made some comments earlier. I'd like to thank Mr. Gudgeon for his comments, but someone in this room made comments earlier. I'm not sure who, but they talked about the finances of Richland County Ambulance Service and then possibly not benefiting other areas of the county. I'd just like to make note that from 2003 to 2012, Richland County Ambulance Service gave back to the general fund of Richland County $923,836.64. That did end up benefiting every taxpayer citizen in Richland County because we do draw from the general fund to fund other programs and services within this county.
Thank you. Didn't know that. I knew we drew from the general fund. I didn't know the ambulance service gave it back. Okay, any other comments? Are we ready to vote on this? I think maybe we'll call the roll once again. Mr. Kalish, a yes or no? And we're talking about the purchase of the REC building for the emergency government management and the ambulance garage.
Carroll,
No.
Murphy Lopez,
No.
Van Landewit. Seat,
Excuse me, this is the motion to approve the purchase.
Yes, this is the main motion. A yes or no would be appreciated.
Aye.
McKee, Brewer,
Yes.
Luck,
No.
Manning,
Yes.
Glassbrenner, Hooper,
Yes.
Gentis,
Yes.
Turk,
Yes.
Cosgrove, Frank,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Williamson, Hui, Nelson, Call, McGuire.
Yes.
16 yes, 4 no's.
16 yes, 4 no's. The resolution carries. It is adopted. Number 12, a resolution proclaiming 2021 as Fair Housing Month.
This will be resolution number 21-94. Now therefore be it resolved, the Richland County Board hereby proclaims the month of July 2021 as Fair Housing Month and requests and encourages every citizen and business of our community to support and endorse fair housing, to reaffirm their commitment to fair housing for all, and wholeheartedly recognize these rights and responsibilities throughout the year. This resolution is being offered to you by Finance and Personnel Committee.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Van Landijk and Mr. McKee seconds. No brainer, I would say. So I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Number 13, a resolution celebrating Independent Retailer Month. Mr. Kalish.
Resolution number 21-95. Now therefore be it resolved, the Richland County Board expresses its appreciation to all independent retailers and small business owners in Richland County. And be it further resolved, the Richland County Board appreciates the contributions of all businesses, no matter their size. And be it further resolved, the county board encourages residents and visitors to shop at independent retailers in July and throughout the year. And be it further resolved that the county clerk is directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Greater Richland Area Chamber. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its published and passage and publication, excuse me. This resolution is being offered to you by the Rules and Resolutions Committee.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Ms. Cooper, and do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Turk. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Number 14, a resolution approving a contract with an engineering firm relating to improving the county's emergency radio and tower infrastructure. Mr. Kalish.
This would be resolution number 21-96. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the contract proposed by True North Consulting Group, Inc. of Milwaukee to undergo a Phase 2 design development relating to the county's emergency radio and tower infrastructure at a cost not to exceed $21,500. And be it further resolved that funds to carry out this resolution shall come from the short-term capital borrowing fund, Fund 92, and approval is hereby granted for the county administrator to sign on behalf of the county the contract proposed by True North Consulting Group, Inc. for this work. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication. This resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure?
Frank will move.
Mr. Severson and Mr. Frank seconds. Discussion? This is just the first step. Second step? Okay.
Steve Carroll's got a question.
Yes, Mr. Carroll.
Could we get a explanation of what the deliverables are for this report? In other words, will we get a closer approximation of costs? What exactly are we getting with this phase 2?
Good question. I will call on Ms. Luck for some explanation. You're not on yet.
No, now I'm on.
There
Okay.
you are.
So for the first phase has already been done, and we did get a cost estimate with 3 different options of what we could do with our, to improve our radio tower system. This one, and Barb, actually you might be a better one to go into the detail, but this is the next step. So we had enough budgeted to do phase 1 and phase 2, which will get us to the point where we will then know how much the entire thing is for sure going to cost, and they will help us develop an RFP. But why don't you go ahead and detail it out?
Melissa's exactly right. This phase will develop the RFP that will go out to bid. This phase will take us through the end of the year to develop that. We will be meeting on August 13th at LEJC and then at the Finance Committee to decide which direction we'd like to take this project, at which level. And after that meeting, we'll be able to move forward if you approve this contract tonight. This will just allow the company to develop the RFP at the level that the supervisors choose to do so.
Clear as mud. Thank you, ladies. This has been a project that has been around for quite some time. I have received what only that I could describe as impassioned pleas from the various localities around the county, fire departments, fire chiefs, telling me that we need to have a radio system we can rely on. We cannot be down in Lone Rock, for instance, an officer trying to do a door-to-door or some. I remember the backup was gone. There was no way for that individual to respond via radio. Mr. Severson.
I look at this as like it could maybe help out our EMS coverages like in Lafarge and Viola, or let's say Lone Rock. Because our sheriff's department then would have to page or contact another county to have them paged via radio. So this is, again, would be our tax dollars, Richland County going to help these outlying ambulance services and fire districts.
Amazing, thank you. So, this is the guys that are gonna tell us what we need to do and what it's gonna cost us. So, all those in favor of this resolution to approve a contract with an engineering firm signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Number 15, a resolution making a funds transfer to the Richland County Fair Revolving Loan Fund. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-97. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that $15,000 is hereby temporarily transferred from the general fund to the Richland County Fair Revolving Fund for use by the Fair and Recycling Committee in conducting the 2021 Richland County Fair, with this appropriation being for a period of 90 days. And be it further resolved that the $15,000 will be transferred back from the County Fair Revolving Loan Fund to the general fund by not later than December 31st, 2021. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mrs. Glassbrenner, seconded by Mr. Williamson. I understand this is something we do every year, and it's to get things rolling. And the good news in this resolution is we're going to have a fair. Great. Well, I think we will. Second wave, third wave, yeah. Well, right now, we're planning on a fair, and we're giving it some money that we do every year. So I will ask for a vote on this resolution.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, yes, Mr. Nelson.
I don't understand why we have to keep $15,000 for the last 50 years. And if we want a good fair, we're gonna have to ask more money for this. I would ask the chairman of the fair committee to chime in with that.
Are you offering an amendment?
We'll even promise to pay it back.
Are you
Eventually.
offering an amendment?
Yes, I'd like to see 25,000.
Okay, amendment's been made to raise this to 25,000. Do I have a second? Mr. Cooey? Pretty straightforward. Do we need 25,000, Mr. Severson?
Sure.
Okay.
Pretty fine, but in all fairness here, we're like almost a little less than a month and a half away from the fair. It's getting close to time where if we wanted to make a good fair, have something come in to provide for our citizens to go to. Probably be a short amount of time, but like a reoccurring amount like this would be helpful. Try
Thank
that.
you. Well, the motion's been made to increase the amount to 25,000.
And if it did get increased to 25,000,
That's an amendment.
I would make another motion that it stays within the fair account, that they can utilize that towards the next year's fair.
Well, okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Then you're trying to amend the amendment, I think. Mr. Seep,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead.
I agree with the $25,000. It's very conservative, considering the fact that Mr. Nelson said that he'd gladly take $30,000 the last time and he'd find a place to spend it. So I think Mr. Nelson would be very happy to have $25,000 to spend.
But Mr. Severson wants to make it a non-lapsing fund. Are you in favor of that?
One amendment at a time, Mr. Chair.
Well, I'm just asking. One amendment at a time. We'll vote on the amendment to increase it to 25,000.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I have clarification?
Yeah.
Is this changing the resolution says $15,000 twice? Is it changing both $15,000 amounts to 25,000?
Mr. Nelson?
I think what Mr. Severson's amendment would do, would change the last 15,000 where it would be kept in the fair fund for use for another year.
Well, right now we have the amendment to increase the amount from 15 to 25,000.
Mr. Chair,
It would seem to me that the amount should be changed in both instances here.
question of clarification.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little confused. For two entities, $15,000 being discussed here, so that's $30,000. The additional 25 would make it to 55,000
no,
total?
Mr. C, hang on. It says we're gonna give 15,000 temporarily transferred from the general fund to the Richland County Fair revolving fund. And then further on, be it further resolved that this 15,000 be transferred from the fair revolving fund back to the general fund. So it's the same amount of money they're talking about in two instances here. And the question before us now is to raise it from 15 to 25. Ms. Gentis.
Okay, when there's not a flood and COVID, has the fair in the past made money over the 15,000, or have they always been in the red? I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that. Maybe Mr. Severson.
A little bit
does.
of both. We've made some money, but not a drastic amount to provide another fair for the next year. 'Cause we've always had to give it back to the general fund. We borrowed it from, and then
Is the fair there to make money or provide
yeah,
a service to the county?
yeah, correct.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote on this amendment.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Can I ask also, so my understanding is the $15,000 in the past was for cash, so that at the different entrances to the fair, that people.
So they
running
have
the fair
money
would
to
have-
make change, et cetera, yes.
Right, so is the $15,000 not enough for that purpose? Or I thought Mr. Nelson was speaking about really wanting more money in the fair budget, that's a totally different issue, and that's more related to how we set our budget for 2022. So that's why I'm asking the question. What's the purpose of increasing from 15 to 25?
Well, I'll ask Mr. Nelson to answer that since it was his amendment.
I didn't understand quite what you said, Sean.
Well, his point, Mr. Nelson, is that the 15,000 is initially meant just as startup money for the fair, to get some money in the cash registers, so to speak, and give them some operating cash. And he said your request for 25,000 is probably more appropriately handled as a budgeting issue to allocate more money for the fair. Did I answer that adequately? Okay.
I might have to agree with that.
Okay. Okay. Well, do you want to withdraw your amendment? But I will. And who seconded that amendment? Mr. Cooey, will you withdraw your second? Okay. Now, we throw out 15 grand to get things started and then they give it back. That's fairly simple. Let's vote on it. All those in favor of it signify by saying yes. Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we passed it. But the whole issue of budgeting for the fair is another matter, and we'll be taking it up in the budgeting process. Administrator Langrick, I will refer that question to you. Okay. Number 16, a resolution adopting a county classification compensation and staff authorization policy. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-98. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that it adopts the classification, compensation, and staff authorization policy. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. McKee, seconded by Mr. Cooey. Administrator Langrick, do you have comments on this?
Ken, I can briefly say that this is a project we worked on with finance and personnel for several months, stretching back almost a year in regards to the staff authorization part. As kind of stated in the resolution, the main aspects of this is to establish some procedural guidance on how we're classifying our employee positions, promoting the consistent compensation practices the best we can across all departments, with certainly consideration yet for departments to have their own flexibility to meet their operational needs, but then also facilitating oversight on departments' staffing authorization levels. So it is taken about a year to get together. It will probably take several years to refine out and have something that we've touched on all different aspects of these three components, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? This is an ongoing process. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the resolution is adopted. Number 17, a resolution amending rules 14 and 16 of the rules of the board. Mr. Kalish.
This would be resolution number 21-99. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that rules number 14 and 16 of the rules of the board are hereby amended by repealing the following crossed out words and adopting the following underlined words. I will read them as the changes are made. So Rule 14 deals with contracts and says agreements entered into on behalf of Richland County should be reduced to writing whenever possible. All contracts involving an expenditure of $10,000 or more a year must be approved by the county board, except that 1 year's extension of an existing contract may be authorized by the appropriate committee. All contracts involving less than $10,000 a year must be approved by the county administrator. Department heads may enter into a contract on behalf of Richland County, subject to county administrator approval. Department heads will report all contracts to the appropriate committee. Section on expenditures. If the purchase price of the needed property including computers is $2,000 or less, the department head may make the purchase upon obtaining at least one quotation from a vendor. If the purchase price of the needed property including computers exceeds $2,000 and does not exceed $10,000, the purchase must be made by the county administrator after having obtained a minimum of 3 quotations from vendors, if reasonably possible. The county administrator may commit Richland County to a multiple of units if the cost of either exceeds $10,000 or of real estate, or for the repair, renovation, remodeling, or reconstruction of buildings or other public works, unless that expenditure has been approved by the appropriate committee and county board. Going down to section program initiatives and grants. No department or of county government may undertake a program initiative or contract with or apply and accept a grant unless approved by the county administrator. If the grant requires matching funds, in-kind match, or adding personnel, it will require approval by the county board before submission. Section on surplus county property that's been changed. If no other county department has use for the surplus equipment, it is then to be liquidated by the department with approval of the county administrator by the best means possible. On budget matters, all budget issues and fund transfers must go through the county administrator, who will report to the Finance and Personnel Committee and, if necessary, to the county board. For rule number 16, item 1, the actual expenses for meals shall be reimbursed in an amount not to exceed $25 in any one day. Alcoholic beverages, not a reimbursable expense. Detailed itemized receipts shall be required in all cases. Lodging invoices indicating room service charges will not suffice for reimbursement. Reimbursement of meals is only warranted when traveling out of the county on county business. All supervisors' meal reimbursements must be approved by the county clerk. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication, and this resolution is being offered to you by the Rules and Resolutions Committee.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Murphy Lopez makes the motion. I'll second it. I can do that. I'm a member of this body. Okay, this is a lot of stuff here, but mainly it's a cleanup of language. But we did increase some amounts. So if anybody wants to address that, go ahead, Mr. Langrick, perhaps.
Mr. Chair, I think you have a question from Supervisor Carroll, if you want to entertain.
Yes, Mr. Carroll, go ahead.
Under Rule 14, expenditures, on the first sentence, you have the amount 2,000 crossed out and replaced by 2,000. Is that a typo, or why is that the same number?
In our conversations with the administrator, transition committee, and then on to rules and resolutions, I think we had played with that number before, so I think it might have been crossed out, added to a higher amount, and then re-edited back down to 2,000 from memory serving. Does that sound correct, Supervisor Luck?
Yes. Okay, ready to vote?
Chair Brewer, this is Bob. A quick comment.
Yes, Mr. Hay.
I'd really like to thank Melissa for going through and digging through this and getting the language and kind of giving the transition committee the drafts and information to work with. So that was a lot of background work. As mentioned before, there's a lot of things that county supervisors do that don't happen at meetings. So I want to make sure that stood out. And thank you, Melissa.
Yes, thank you very much for your work on this. Mrs. Luck, it was quite a process. I think I'm ready to vote. All those in favor of these changes to rules 14 and 16 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution amending the rules is adopted. Number 18, a resolution amending the Richland County Employee Handbook meal reimbursements. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-100. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the Richland County Employee Handbook, page 26, referencing meal reimbursement is hereby amended by repealing the following crossed out words and adopting the following underlined words. Meals policy is to reimburse for meals. Actual expenses for meals shall be reimbursed in amounts not to exceed $25 a day. Alcoholic beverage is not a reimbursable expense. The above limitation shall not include applicable sales tax, which shall be reimbursed, and gratuities, which shall be reimbursed up to a maximum of 15% of the bill. Detailed itemized receipts shall be required in all cases. Lodging invoices indicating room service charges will not suffice. And reimbursement of meals is only warranted when traveling out of the county and on county business. All employees' meal reimbursements must be approved by the department head. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective on the 1st of January 2022, and this resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mrs. Glassbrenner, and do we have a second? Mrs. Luck. We just modernized our reimbursement schedule. Do we have any comments? Not enough? Too much? Why isn't alcohol included? Okay, we know why. Okay, I'm ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted. A resolution, number 19, creating a committee to develop a strategic plan and monitor progress once developed. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-101. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the Strategic Plan Development and Oversight Committee is hereby created, with the composition and duties of the committee being as follows. 5 county board supervisors. The committee shall gather input from all stakeholders to continue the development of the strategic plan and create a final plan for the presentation to the county board by the end of 2021. Once the plan is approved, the committee will meet quarterly to monitor progress and report to the county board. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and this resolution is being offered to you by the Rules and Resolutions Committee.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure, Mr. Van Landijk? Do we have a second? Ms. Luck. This is very important work and something that's easy to set aside and forget about. Put in the corner, gathers dust on the shelf. So can't have strategic plans unless you follow them and update them and adjust them. They're not set in stone, but they are give you the guidance, the roadmap. So very important work. And we'll are we making recommendations not for people in that committee yet?
Mr. Chair, we're hoping that between items 23 and 24 tonight, that the county board can
Can take a little recess?
recess and we can
Okay.
put together a committee on committees to appoint.
Okay, so we'll do that. But first, let's get the committee formed or designated. So all those in favor of a committee to develop a strategic plan and monitor progress, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we've got the committee structure and we'll people it here in a little while. Number 20, resolution approving a contract with Abb Swain Law Firm for corporation counsel services. And Mr. Kalish and Michael, are you gonna stay or go?
I would want to stay to answer any questions that the board may have, and then I will excuse myself to allow for honest discussion.
Thank you. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-102. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that they approve the Richland County Administrator to enter into a contract with Abb Swain Law Firm to perform corporation counsel services on behalf of Richland County. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective retroactively from the 23rd of June of 2021 and extending through the 20th of July 2022. This resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Ms. Gentis and seconded by Mr. Severson. Pretty self-explanatory, but do we have any comments or questions? Mr. Manning.
Just curious on the cost that I see here compared to previous council.
Thank you. It'll be, we don't know yet what the costs will be, but we are confident that it will not exceed what we previously paid for council. It's on a little bit different basis. Instead of, I don't know how the deal we had with Ben, we paid him an hourly fee, but then it was based on so many hours per month. And with Abb Swain, it will be on an hourly basis and will be charged accordingly. But we do have an exit clause in case it's exorbitantly high or something we can't handle or live with, we can get out. Did you have a comment, Mr. Langrick?
No, I would say that in discussions that we've had, $125 per hour is certainly more than $75, which I think we were engaged with Attorney Southwick. At the same time, we do have a little bit more robust staff. We're reaching to an expansive firm that has municipal experience. So we're hoping in that $125 an hour that we're gaining efficiencies per hour to kind of make up for that difference in amount. Essentially that we're going to be able to get more $125 worth out of that hour. So hopefully overall at the end of the year, we're still coming underneath a lesser amount, Mr. Chair.
And also the firm of Abb Swain, these people are in the municipal law, county law, whatever business. They're headquartered in Westby, but they're talking about gentleman here resides in Richland Center. And why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little background?
Sure. My name is Michael Windle. If the contract is approved, I would be the primary point of contact. I live in Panorama Estates, the new apartment building that was put up. The reason you haven't seen me is I moved there right before COVID hit pretty much. And so I did not have an opportunity to get out and explore the community. I live here. Anything that I can do to assist the board or the county will benefit me as well directly. However, I'm also backed with 3 other attorneys. We have a combined 90 years legal experience. So if I don't have an answer, I'm a phone call away from somebody who's been doing this literally longer than I've been alive. my name is not on the sign, but that doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. And I have been serving as an interim counsel for the last month or so, and you guys have kept me busy. So I am more than happy to do what I can to improve Richland County, and I hope that the board supports us in giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Michael. Ms. Gentis.
Since it is more, since we're changing things, I assume certain department heads would contact, Mr., is it Wendell? Wendell directly, but some of us were contacting Ben Southwick directly. So now what would be our appropriate channel so we handle this well with finances and getting answers? Would we go through Clinton before we would do that? How would you suggest that?
Not to bottleneck everything through your administrator when you're trying to reach out on projects, I would say reach out to Attorney Wendell. We've had conversations on trying to assess what's appropriate and what needs approval and what's not. He keeps a running list of things that he's been requested. I keep a running list of things that I have to request on him or requests that have come through me, and we talk in conversation at a minimum on Fridays at 9 o'clock. And to try to trade notes on things. If things are going to reach a point of, boy, this is going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, then it should fit in our list of priorities, which we talked about and kind of solidified through our strategic plan. So you're certainly welcome to engage out in conversation with Mike. If it's something that he can answer off the top of the head and doesn't really take a whole lot of time, then that might not show up on a service invoice. But if it's something where it requires to dig into it and begins taking his time or his legal assistant's time, then it would show up on an invoice. Did I say that correctly, Mike?
It'll show up on the invoice. It'll just say no charge.
Well, how about that? You heard it here. Well, I'd be careful of that one, Mike.
Well, I mean, I would not be out here practicing if I cared about, making six figures or something like that. I truly think that the law can serve people. That's why I do this work specifically. And I'll just do a quick pitch. In addition to corporation counsel services, I have secured an office should the board approve our contract tonight. I do have a limited private practice as well. I understand there's a need for legal services in Richland County. And so I hope to be able to assist in a private capacity as well.
Thank you. Mr. Van Landyke.
Michael, you talked before about this. You said no charge. May we have that in writing, please?
Yes, I can.
We won't make him do that.
During the initial discussions, I was made aware of some of the ways in which you had interacted with Attorney Southwick. By and large, I'm comfortable having reasonable conversations, just as part of the deal. I will, if I feel like it's creeping up on something that I'm going to have to charge for, I'll let you know before that. But we understand that this contract is more of a relationship. I'm not going to nickel and dime you.
Thank you. Are you ready to vote? I am. All those in favor of a contract with Abslain Corporation Counsel Services indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, number 21, a resolution amending resolution 19-36 regarding discrepancy in vacation accrual. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-103. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that resolution number 19-36 is hereby amended as follows. Vacation for full-time employees, vacations are granted on their anniversary date. Vacation is as follows: 1 work week after 1 year of employment, 2 work weeks at the end of 2 years, 3 work weeks at the end of 6 years, 4 work weeks at the end of 12 years, and 5 work weeks at the end of 23 years. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and this resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you. What's your pleasure? You've heard the resolution. Mr. McKee, seconded by Mr. Williamson. Mr. Carrie Severson.
Mr. Chair, could you refresh my memory on what new hires get for vacation?
I can't, but someone here can, I'm sure. Mr. Langrick, can you?
Our vacation right now is one work week after 1 year of employment.
So this would, after 1 year, so new hires don't have any vacation at all.
Correct, unless they're entering underneath a special work agreement.
This is a spot where we can probably change something like this.
It's a discussion that is had with finance and personnel. Looking forward to future conversations and something incorporated in the future as we evaluate our current vacation plan while we try to bolster our ability to recruit and retain, as well as laterally steal folks that already have experience. So this is a conversation that has happened with finance and personnel. What we're trying to clean up here, though, is that ensuring that this was not the intent to change from 5 years to 6 years at the time that this resolution came forward. But it is something that has been identified by finance and personnel, and looking forward to future discussion with them.
Thank you. Is that good, Carrie?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you ready to vote? All those in favor of the resolution regarding the discrepancy in vacation accrual signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the resolution is adopted. Number 22, a resolution creating an assistant to the county administrator position, Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 21-104. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for creating one new assistant to the county administrator position in the administrator's office hourly at 40 hours per week, with this position to be at grade H in the county's wage plan, an hourly probation rate of $20.68 per hour, and an hourly after probation rate of $21.15. And be it further resolved that the job description for this position, which is on file in the county administrator's office, and be it further resolved that the title of this new position is hereby added to the staff authorization table section of the classification, compensation, and staff authorization policy. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Van Dyke, Mrs. Luck. Discussion, questions? An explanation, maybe. I think we knew going in that Clinton Langred could not do all the things that he does without some help. And we've examined several areas in the county looking for that help. And we think there are areas where we can see some budging and when I say budging, I guess I'm talking budget.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
what will be the educational requirements of this position?
I don't think we've set those parameters yet, Mr. McGuire. Mr. Langrick, any thoughts?
I do have a position description drafted here. If you have a minute, I can pull it up.
Probably a PhD would be required, I would guess.
I was hoping we can.
Maybe not.
Someone with a Nobel Peace Prize kind of a thing. We're on. We're in the minimum training and experience is required to perform essential job functions. We have high school diploma or equivalent is required. Preference for 2-year or 4-year degree in administrative support or related field. Preference for knowledge, experience in performing administrative, secretarial, general office work or progressively responsible nature in the multi-department organization. Must be proficient in Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Ready to vote? All those in favor of a resolution creating an assistant to the county administrator signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Number 23, a resolution allocating American Rescue Plan Act funds towards local expansion of broadband appointments to, right there, toward local expansion of broadband. And, Mr. Kalish,
This will be resolution number 21-105. Chair Brewer, did you want me to read the entire agreement?
no, I do not.
Okay, then you should all have that as a part of your packet on your iPads. If you do not have it, it's because I have, the resolution was not ready at the time that the packets went out initially. So I do have copies up here should you need one.
But I can give you some background on it. We have been approached by one of the entities putting in fiber optic cable. And they presented their plan to us, actually in a meeting before this meeting, and it's the Laval Telephone Company. And they have a plan to basically expand beyond Highway 58. And half the expansion's in Richland County, half of it's in Sauk County. They're looking for 200,000 from each county, which we would allocate from the American Rescue Plan funds. That's part of that's the second wave of COVID-related relief that we got through the federal government. And one of the suggested uses of that money and approved uses was to the expansion of broadband. So this is exactly what it's doing. Anyone else care to comment?
Mr. Chair, we did have discussion with Finance and Personnel on an amendment to the proposed resolution that you see here for today. I believe that Attorney Wendell has worked out some language that he could offer if a supervisor wanted to make such a motion to amend.
Well,
I'd be happy to make the motion to amend, just so I can hear what it is.
So I went back and forth.
I'll wait for a second here. I've got it.
Is Frankel second?
Mr. Cooey second. He's always second. He's always good for that. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Wendell.
So I kept it simple. Whereas LTC has committed to the provision of dedicated fiber connectivity for the Richland County Radio Tower Project. This would be inserted between it's a lot of whereas. Between the 5th and 6th whereas. The intent is to ensure that there would be dedicated fiber to the emergency radio towers, should it be reasonably feasible to connect them.
Thank you. Barb, are you behind me? Do you have any comments on this? Pardon? Oh, she said no. Okay.
Chair Brewer, this is Frank. A quick question.
Yes, that's for Frank.
So does the amendment say towers as in the plural in case more go up, or just tower as in the singular because that's what's in the area now?
I have it all in caps, so it's the entirety of the project encompassing however many towers it may be feasible to connect.
All right, thank you.
The idea, I think, Bob, is towers or whatever we have out there. Of course, we don't know yet because we just got the engineering firm lined up tonight to tell us what we need.
Right, and I suspect there'll be more in the future, and that's why I wanted to make sure that the word towers was there for the interconnection of the other one. So thank you.
And we can thank Director Scott, IS Director Scott, for bringing this in to our attention, saying, wait a minute, if you're going to do this, then you ought to tie this up here a little bit. So I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair,
Thinking ahead. Yes.
Can Mr. Wendell repeat the amendment, please?
Sure.
Whereas LTC, which is defined earlier in the resolution, has committed to the provision of dedicated fiber connectivity for the Richland County Radio Tower Project. I could add a parenthetical S to the towers if that would be helpful.
So can we accept that as a typo?
Sounds self-evident.
Adding an S? I'll refer that to Corp Counsel. Can you accept that as a typo? Yes, okay. Yes, Steve.
Yeah, it sounds like this kind of fell in our lap, but I know broadband's a concern for the whole county. I just wondered how this fits into a more widespread strategy or things we might also be doing.
Yeah. And I guess then the other question is, will we have funds available for every provider who comes forward and asks for our help? And I would hope so. But I guess when the money is gone, it's gone. I mean, if you better get in line, don't stand behind the door when they're handing out the money, I guess. But this is a good use of those funds. I mean, it's absolutely, I've been on the Lavelle system since the spring, and it's like I've entered the 21st century. It's wonderful. Not my cell service, but everything else. So do you think it's a good idea? Ready to vote on it?
The amendment?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, I guess we have an amendment, yes.
I don't, did you put an amount out there, or did I miss that? Was there an amount?
I can speak to that. There's a $200,000 commitment from Richland County. The project in total is $1.8 million. $350,000 is being asked of Sauk County. There's smaller amounts being asked from the townships in which it also falls in. And then the remaining kind of half of it then is going to be picked up by Laval. So the total grant from the state is a 50% state and then 50% local match in the entirety of the 1.8 project. But they're looking for an answer, and to have an application deadline, I think is July 27th is the day we have to have everything buttoned up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that's why such quick action here on our part. Yes, we do have an amendment. Basically, the amendment says they're going to help us out with our towers. So let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have the amendment. Now we have the original motion, which is to go with the 200,000, is it? Exactly? Carrie Severson?
Have a discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
I support majority of this resolution. I'm just saddened to learn that we don't have a policy in place on how these funds will be utilized. And I think that abuse could happen in the future if we don't have a policy in place before we grant these funds out right now. However, we support some things that are in this resolution.
Thank you.
Concerned about that policy.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add to that if I could.
Yes.
I do agree with Supervisor Severson that I do think we need a policy on how we're going to spend the $3.2 million in American Rescue Plan funding. So this takes 200 grand out of that 3.2 million. And I think before we get too much further down the road and before all those people show up at that door, we need to have a clear idea as a county board. How do we want to parcel out this 3.2 million? So I think that's got to be a top priority.
I agree. But we have this question before us right now. And the urgency is it has to be done by July 27, which is pretty darn quick. So if you feel comfortable voting yes, then we'll do it. So all those in favor of going ahead with this signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Say yes. I'm sorry. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay. I think I should have asked for an aye rather than an A, yes. Okay, the resolution is adopted. It's getting late. Now we have,
Mr. Chair, if we could,
we're asking for a short recess.
if we could recess, and then we'll have our committee members from the Committee on Committees, if you
Committee
would
on Committees convened
still
up here.
stay present.
And no one gets to go watch the Bucks while we're in recess, so. So Committee on Committees up here, please. Heather now. Everyone, please take your seat. We're reconvening. Okay, number 24 on the agenda, appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees. Administrator Langrick.
Mr. Chair, recommendations from Committee on Committee this evening for the Strategic Planning Committee are recommending Steve Carroll, Steve Williamson, Ingrid Glassbrenner, Melissa Luck, Carrie Severson named to that committee, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Supervisor Severson, you suggested that each person give a brief background. So you can start.
I didn't think that each supervisor should give a brief background. I think a background to why this committee was created
Oh,
and why
go ahead.
why this all spurred up, background to that. Just so supervisors and our public know, why are we creating a new committee? I think it really went over that. We know why we're doing it. But I guess so, Supervisor Murphy Lopez, Supervisor Luck, Supervisor Glassbrenner, and myself been meeting, on an independent basis, sitting down and discussing a lot of strategic planning and comprehensive planning stuff. And then more recently, Supervisor Carroll has joined in on the conversation as well, and is more getting involved and more in depth into finding out the future of Richland County and where we should go with all other governmental entities within the county and municipalities. We decided that, hey, we should create a committee instead to be more formal and more legal. Along with it. So that's where this is up kind of spurred from.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Luck.
Sorry. I just want to say that, I think we really decided that we wanted to make sure that we could have input from our stakeholders in a very public forum. So having a committee where we can have department heads come, employees, citizens, other communities within our county, having the venue to be able to have those conversations in public, we thought was really important. So that's another
Thank you.
reason.
All right, the slate of candidates once again is Mr. Langrick.
Mr. Chair, the recommendations from Committee on Committee is Steve Carroll, Steve Williamson, Ingrid Glassbrenner, Melissa Luck, Carrie Severson.
Thank you. I think we'll ask for a vote on that. All those in favor of approving that list of candidates and making them members of the Strategic Planning Committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we expect big things. Big things. Okay. Mr. Langrick, anything else?
Mr. Chair, recommending appointment of Ab Swain, Representative Attorney Mike Wendell as Corporation Counsel. This would be an appointment by Chapter 59 by the County Administrator, but needs confirmation by the County Board and is in conjunction, obviously, with approving the contract with our earlier resolution. Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have, we've approved the contract, so this is kind of, redundant. However, it has to be done. So, will someone make that a motion? Mr. Van Landijk and Mr. Manning seconds. You know what we're voting on. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chair, one last appointment this evening. Make recommendation for Interim Commissioner Josh Elder, appointment to Highway Commissioner. And again, this is by Chapter 59. Needs confirmation by the County Board. Background on Josh. If I can have you quick introduce yourself, and since we're approaching the 9 o'clock hour, if you can give us the 45-minute cut down version of your bio.
So a lot of you guys know me, some of you don't. My name is Josh Elder, born and raised in Richland County. Work at the Highway Department 5 years. I was assigned foreman for the county, and that time I had a chance to step up and become interim. So I'm looking forward to doing this full time. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, you've served as interim twice, Josh.
Yep, this is the second time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Veteran?
Okay. So all those in favor of well, okay, we have a motion. Thank you. We have a motion and a second, Ms. Cooper. And what we're voting on is ratifying the administrator's appointment of Josh Elder as County Highway Commissioner. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a commissioner. Congratulations, Josh. And Mrs. Josh, thank you for sitting through this whole meeting. Reports, administrators report and Southwest Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. I think I see Troy back there. So who's first?
I will defer. Go ahead, Troy.
This is Troy Maggie of Southwest Regional Planning.
Well, I know it's quite late. Marty was generous enough to give me a bit of time on the agenda. Barb, if you wouldn't mind bringing it up. We get questions and comments every now and again. As you all know, you generously contribute to Southwest Regional Planning Commission. So I'd like to take just a few minutes every kind of year in front of our county boards to share what we've been up to. Go ahead and jump ahead if you would, Barb. Just a brief background on governance. We serve 5 counties down here in Southwest Regional Planning Commission. We're responsive to you all. Our commission is 15 board members. Chairman Brewer, it's always a county board chair. Back up if you want, Barb. It's always a county board chair. Marty Brewer in this case, and then our other appointees, Melissa Luck, and then Ray Schmitz is with us here. He's hung out tonight. He's from Richland Center. So we got a board of 3. I think we might be heading the wrong direction. Our budget is in the neighborhood of 700 and some thousand, and the county, Richland County, gives us around 17.5 or so every year. It's about 90 cents. There it is, 97 cents a person. So we try to stretch that pretty far and leverage it for future funding. One of the things I was talking with Melissa about is a lot of broadband mapping we're engaged with currently. I'm not going to share too much on it tonight, but we've done some resource and kind of gap analysis with broadband. So we'd be happy to circle back around and share some of that work with you. Thanks, Barb. Next slide. Just a last point on the budget. We've been able to really leverage some of this county funding. So we're this year about 62% grant funded, outside funding. So we're really trying to take your dollars and bring in additional funding to do some work in the counties. And that's what I wanted to spend some time here tonight, is give you an update on the 2-year EDA grant funded work that we've been doing. Next slide then, Barb, thanks. So we came before you in 2019 and asked for a contribution in addition to our county funding to bring in a $411,000 grant to do flood recovery and economic resiliency. The funding from the U.S. Economic Development Administration was around $328,972. The local match was 20%, and it was 82,000 and change, as you see up there. We were able to bring in about 31,000 of in-kind through Jason Glassbrenner's hours. So we're working hard with him. And then the 51,000 is cash match. It's from you at the county, Richland Center, and the other communities. The scope of work, and I'll just touch on each of these, just to give you a background on what we've been doing. There's kind of a 5-point scope of work. The first is local community planning. We've done some development analyses, and I'll go into that in each of our communities. We've done a workforce study. We're doing some floodplain restoration work. We're starting up in Fancy Creek, just north of town. And then your county strategic planning is also part of this. I won't speak on that tonight. I want to point out Matt Honer, who's with us patiently and quietly back in the back there. Matt's been the lead project manager on all this work. So if you love it, please give him a holler. Some of the community planning work, we're moving around each municipality in the county. So we started with Lone Rock. And I'll ask you, Barb, just to jump ahead a few slides if you would. One more there. So just briefly, some of how we approach community planning is data driven. You've seen some of this data in the strategic planning. You've seen kind of the school enrollment decline for Southwest Wisconsin. We've got some population projections. This is a new data tab, Barb, the next one. for Richland County. That orange line is death certificates issued, and the blue line is birth certificates issued in Richland County. So you see we've got trend lines going in the wrong directions. We bring this out to all of our communities. We need to let folks know that we've got on the horizon some significant demographic challenges. We don't want the orange line above the blue, right? We've also talked to you about the aging communities, the decline in workforce population. You want all that. So go ahead and slowly click through, Barb, if you would. We've talked about total population. We've talked about the increase in the next slide on the driving that population growth is the population 65 and over. And then the next slide, the workforce population projections declining. All of this is what I call do nothing projections. If we take absolutely no action, we should be assured of this business here. We're not taking no action. You guys are taking a lot of action. The other thing we are at regional planning is asset based. So the biggest asset in the region, as we know, is the beauty of this place. And we work and incorporate that in all the work we do. Go ahead and click through there, Barb. We've got great businesses, small businesses in each of our communities, recreation. That's actually, oh, look at that cute kid, that's me. All right, photos. So we're asset based and trying to build up our communities and sell them as we go. So like I said, we spent about 2 months in Lone Rock. We had about 5 outreach sessions. Lone Rock's heavily engaged in economic development. They've got a great couple of new businesses downtown. Some of the key points that came out of that work are looking at infill. They've got some vacant lots and some work to do on Main Street. They want to create a type of a chamber of commerce type of an organization to support their businesses. Heavy into marketing. It's a great location for outdoor recreation. And then modernizing and updating their zoning ordinances to really be more business friendly and responsive. So we're going to help them kind of move forward on some of those fronts. And then recreation, bike and pet improvements, and then camping. The next slide, Barb, shows kind of an aerial. This is an aerial of Lone Rock. So it's a bit rough to see, but there's a green line coming down from the northwest. That's your Pine River Trail. And then heading out of town on the east, you might see a red line. That's a future proposed bike trail over to Spring Green. So as we sit here and work in these communities, we want to make sure that as folks come into the community from either side, they can get through the community safely and they go right up Main Street and there's bike racks in front of all the restaurants, right? So these are the kind of things we're looking at, the amenities and the growth around the community as well, and making sure it's incorporated. We moved on to Richland Center, some key projects that we're helping develop there. And I say we, it's hopefully regional planning. Certainly Jason's involved in all this. Marketing and branding, investing and reinvesting in the downtown. They're exploring the position of city administrator. That's something that came up in a lot of our conversations, is that need for full-time capacity. Improving the city and the school district relationship, making sure there's more teamwork there. Again, modernizing their zoning ordinance, not just the content itself, so it's more business friendly and flexible, but also getting the thing online. They have some work to do as well with their website. It's been recognized. And then, of course, recreation and housing are huge. The next slide, I think I shared with you in the past. These are 8 different logos that Jason pulled together using Richland Center. So there's some challenges there with branding and identity, and all that goes into marketing. We've been up in Yuba, population 65-ish. We've had a lot of conversations up there about their future and different work that they could be engaged with. The current project we're working on is a community survey to determine if they can be eligible for community development block grants for their new fire station. It sits in the floodplain. They've got some issues with it. So we're not doing any kind of long-range planning there necessarily, but the critical issue they have currently that we're helping with is trying to see if we can get them access to funding for that fire station relocated in town. So there's a kind of a complex survey that needed to happen, so we're sorting that out. We moved up to Casanova. We'll be up there in a couple of weeks. The big project they have right now is phosphorus compliance. They've got to get their phosphorus discharge down to 0.075 parts per million. So we're looking at what they call nutrient trading. Essentially, instead of reducing your phosphorus discharge at the wastewater treatment plant, the community can work with farmers and landowners to reduce phosphorus discharge from farm fields. So we're exploring DNR grant funding on the recreation side of DNR to acquire land for a future park, which would then offset the phosphorus. Essentially, we want to use DNR recreation funding to offset the cost of DNR phosphorus regulation. So good preliminary conversations so far. We hope to do some more long-range planning there around recreation in the community. I know Jason's been up there quite a bit as well. Moving forward, we'll be working with Boaz, hopefully in the coming weeks. I'll be up there to kind of scope out that. This is just an image here. You see that red outline? That's the municipal boundary. And then that yellow blob is the floodplain, the regulatory floodplain. So hard to develop in a community that's 98% in the floodplain. So we've got some good challenges there. Good community. We got a phenomenal clerk down there. So hopefully we'll be able to work with them over the next couple months. So those are the community plans. Just real quick on what we've talked about with the development analysis in each of these communities. What we did under Matt's leadership is looked at, for instance, Lone Rock, and we'll be doing this as well in Richland Center, a parcel by parcel analysis of land that is undeveloped or underdeveloped based on a series of kind of metrics and highest and best uses. We broke the community up into 3 areas. Next slide, if you would, Barb. We looked at residential infill areas, vacant lots in the town that could be infilled for single family or multifamily residential. If it's red, it's a high priority. If it's green, it's a low priority. So these are potential residential infill lots. We're a place to start the conversation. We moved on, Barb, if you would, and looked at the corridor across the top, the industrial kind of corridor, where some opportunities are there to attract industrial commercial development. And then the third area we looked at on the next slide is the Oak Street or Main Street corridor and along the rail. So the communities at the end of the day will get these maps, start thinking and strategizing, working with landowners, finding incentives, whatever may happen. They'll also get on the next sheet, Barb, a bit of a matrix that identifies, I know you can't read this, but on the left is the address, the acreage, the parcel number, the existing use, and potential future use. So we'll be able to kind of work at a parcel by parcel area to look at each of these bits, each of these properties. So the 1, 2, 3, the third part of the scope I mentioned was the workforce study. We spent time interviewing about 11 employers. We rolled out a community survey. We always pull on good data, and we've developed an implementation plan. Again, this is kind of the key aspect of pretty much any community in Southwest Wisconsin is how do we attract and retain workforce. Some of the major employers in mostly the city here, feedback they gave us is they really want to make sure that Richland County and its communities are more attractive online. When they tell an employee they're going to move to Richland Center and they get online, or Richland County and they get online, there's not as much there as the employer would like to see that makes the place look desirable to live. Increase housing for all incomes, continue to improve downtown Richland Center, and then we're hearing to welcome diversity and engage newcomers into communities. So those are the key talking points. The implementation plan we put together has 2 major initiatives. The first is improving the overall image. We talked about this. That includes improve what we say. So content, messaging, photographs, logos, all of that content stuff. And then the other part of this is where we say it. So is that social media, is it billboards and magazines and what have you. And then the second initiative is roll out actual resident attraction. So what we did is we identified target markets that may be attractive, may see Richland County as attractive. So what you see up here, if you let your eyes glaze over it, on the left we've got cities, mostly counties here. They range from Dane County to St. Louis, and across the top we've got different metrics on the city. So where there's a green block, if you will, Richland County, it measures favorably, right? So housing affordability, one of the things that, for instance, Kate Koziel in our office, our marketing guru, could do is roll out some online marketing, Google ads, package up materials, and then in the, for instance, Dane County market across the bottom, Richland County is much more favorable when it comes to housing affordability, much more favorable when it comes to cost of living. So we figured out what the right thing is to say to each of these areas to make the county look a little more favorable. Again, we're trying to target market both the markets themselves, and then Barb, if you would, then the actual audiences. So there's different messaging we would use for what we call boomerangers, folks who lived here, left, and came back, alumni, and then tourists. Marty Richards is pretty aggressive in trying to market to tourists and get them to stick around and stay longer. And then what we call disenchanted urbanites. So And then the plan has SMART goals and some budgets, budgeted and phased implementations. And the last project we're working on, we'll be out here again on Thursday, floodplain restoration up on Fancy Creek, which kind of runs northwest between Richland Center here and Rockbridge. And the goal here is to figure out how we can maybe explore ways to de-channelize this creek. We've got the landowner on board, the DNR, the Wisconsin Wetlands, Darren and Kathy from your office, and really try to keep more of the water on the land. Right now, it just shoots like a funnel right down the river. So that's kind of the flood reduction aspect that we're attacking. So that's the short overview of a lot of work. Again, I want to respect your time tonight, but I'm open to questions or maybe emails and calls if it's getting late, whatever your pleasure. I appreciate it.
You be able to email that to us?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, can I get that, Derek, to you? Is that all right? Yeah. Yeah, happy to do so. Yeah, thanks a lot again for your time. I appreciate it. Barb, thank you very much.
Thank you, Troy. Administrator Langrick, did you have anything to report?
I do not. I would just encourage folks to please stay in tune to your finance and personnel committee meetings as they come up. We're getting heavier and heavier into the budget season. A lot of the discussion is happening at that floor, so please stay in tune so that you can understand the conversations that are happening and be able to contribute through your representation on that committee. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have correspondence?
Yes, sorry, Mary, I didn't know if you were gonna say it or me, sorry. The 2021 green books are in the back, in the back counter back there, so please take one of those. I also brought the 2021 officials directory that I brought at the last meeting. There's still quite a few of those left in the box, so grab those. There's also a brochure from Forward Analytics. I brought that last time, as well as the handout from Southwest Regional Planning Commission. I brought what I had left of those, so those are all back there on the counter behind you.
And the Health and Human Services annual report. So if you don't have your copy of that and you take it, bring it the next time, because I assume Tracy will be giving her report at the next meeting. So if you want to follow along.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Go ahead.
Supervisor Severson here.
Yes.
I'm the chair of Health and Human Services. I'd like the supervisors to look at this annual report. Come prepared with questions to ask Tracy and the other staff stay helpful too, Health and Human Services.
Thank you.
But we can all get more information on how Health and Human Services works, our unfunded mandates.
We're down to number 27. Who wants to do the honors? Ms. Cooper, seconded by Mr. McKee. We are adjourned. Thank you.